Hi everyone, I'm Miss Martine. As some of you young chefs already know, we have a bunch of videos on our FoodPrints website that show you how to do specific things in the kitchen, like how to cut an onion or how to use a can opener. We call these our kitchen skills videos, and you should definitely watch them before starting any recipe. Also, during our recipe videos, you might see this pop up. This symbol is a reminder to watch the skills videos first so that you know how to safely do whatever the teacher is doing on the screen. And one last important thing to remember, you should only do these recipes if you have a grown-up around who's ready to help you and keep you safe. And that's it. Now, have fun cooking.
Hi friends, I'm Miss Taylor, a teacher with the FoodPrints program. Today I'm going to show you how to make crunchy lemon-rosemary chickpeas. These chickpeas are a great addition to salads and also make a tasty snack. Our mise en place for this recipe is very simple. Now remember, our mise en place means everything we'll need for our recipe, out and organized. So in front of me, I have the kitchen tools I'll need for this recipe. We'll need a colander, a can opener, a zester, and a sheet tray lined with 2 paper towels, a can of chickpeas, 1 lemon, a few sprigs of rosemary, salt, garlic powder, and olive oil. If you're using dried beans, that's okay. Just make sure they were soaked long enough and then cooked all the way through before using them in this recipe. And just so you know, it can take a couple of hours to cook dried beans all the way through. So make sure you give yourself enough time to soak them and cook them if you're trying to use them for this recipe. So the first thing we need to do is to preheat the oven. Remember, whenever we work with the oven or the cook stove, we need the help of a grown-up. So grab your grown-up and have them preheat the oven to 400 degrees. These chickpeas will need about 15 minutes in the oven to crisp up, so I'm going to focus on them first. I'm using canned chickpeas today, so the first thing that needs to be done is to open the can using a can opener. As you can see, this can of chickpeas is already open. So let's take a moment to see how our friends are opening their chickpeas at home.
We're gonna open this can of chickpeas. Now we're gonna take our can opener. Watch out for the pointed end. That's what goes in the can, right? Yeah. Right, so we're gonna squeeze the handle. You gonna help me squeeze, squeeze, squeeze? You wanna help me turn? Okay. Ready? Whoa! Oh, very tight turns, right? We don't want to stick our fingers down in there because the edge is very sharp, right? Yeah. So do you want to take the can of chickpeas and dump them carefully in the bowl? Start to dump the liquid out. We'll go shake, 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 shake. There we go.
Well done, friends. Okay, the next step is to drain the liquid from the can. This step should be done over the sink using a colander or a strainer. If you don't have a tool like this, you can just freestyle and use the lid of the can to catch the beans so the liquid drains out. I like to fill up my can with water after I drain the beans so the can is rinsed and ready to be recycled. I also do this because beans are sometimes packed in salty water and I want to get some of that salt off. I also like to put a towel underneath my colander when I'm done so I don't track water all over the floor when I take it back to my workspace. We wouldn't want to slip. So the first thing we need to do is we need to grab one of our paper towels to line our sheet pan. We're doing this because these chickpeas have lots of moisture in them and we want the moisture to come out. The recipe we're making is for crunchy rosemary lemon chickpeas and they can only get crunchy in the oven if we get them dry. So I've lined my sheet pan with the paper towels and I'm gonna pour my washed and drained chickpeas onto them. Now place the second paper towel on top. And here comes the fun part. Place both hands on top and roll. We're doing this to get the moisture out and then also to remove the thin layer of skin that comes on chickpeas. You can do this for about a minute or two. Now, while I'm doing my rolling, let's check in to see how some of you are doing with this step.
All right. My lovely assistant Rowan here is going to roll the chickpeas.
To dry them off.
To dry them off a little bit, right? We dry the excess moisture off of the chickpeas. That way they'll crisp up nice in the oven, right? Yummy, yummy, yummy.
And make sure you don't burn them right.
That's right. And that is how you dry off the chickpeas. Bye!
Bye!
Our friends at home did an awesome job rolling out their chickpeas. Let's check on ours here in our kitchen. So I'm taking my top layer of paper towels off. And you'll notice that some of the translucent skins that are on the chickpeas have started to come off. It's okay if you see those. You can just pick them out and put them in your compost or just throw them in the trash. It's really up to you. After you've done that step of filtering through and taking out any loose skins you see or any chickpeas that might be discolored or a little bit too hard, then we'll move on to the next step. The next step is to gently pull this bottom paper towel out, just like this. I'm going really slow to make sure that all of my chickpeas stay on my tray. And some of them fell on the floor, and that's okay. We'll just pick them up when we clean up afterwards. This bottom paper towel, I'm going to save, and you'll see why in a second. So now we need to coat our chickpeas with a little bit of olive oil. So if you're working with a sibling or with a kitchen helper, this is a really good time to start to divide up jobs. So sometimes what I like to do when I'm working with a partner in the kitchen is one person holds the spoon while the other person pours. It's so nice to share the workload in the kitchen. So I'm just gonna do 1 tablespoon. I'm gonna pour them all over the chickpeas, and I'm going to use my hand to rub it in, just like this. The thing that's really important is that every chickpea looks shiny and coated with oil. And since we're using our hands, we can really tell which pieces haven't gotten any oil on them yet. Now I'm gonna take a second to wipe my hand off and all that oil with the paper towel that I saved earlier. So now that our hands are nice and clean, this needs to go in the oven. If you have an adult or a grown-up nearby, this is a job for them to do. Since it's just me, I'm gonna do it myself. Now that our chickpeas are in the oven and our hands are nice and clean, we have 15 minutes to work on the rosemary and lemon part of our recipe. I always like to clean my workspace as I go because at the end of cooking, you have a little bit less to do. It's also nice to give yourself as much space as possible to cut and zest and season whatever you have to do for your recipe. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to deal with the rosemary part of our recipe. Now for this recipe, I'll be using fresh rosemary, but if you only have dried rosemary, that's okay. That still works in this recipe. Remember, substitutions are our friend. So with the rosemary, the first thing I have to do is wash it. This stuff has already been washed. Then I only want the leaf part. Now these may not look like traditional leaves, but this is the stem and these are the leaves. And I only want the leaves for this recipe, so I'm gonna take a second to pull them all off. Now for this recipe, we want our rosemary chopped really small and tiny. And you can do this in a few different ways. You can have an adult use a sharp knife, like I'm going to do, or you can use a mortar and pestle, or you can even use kitchen scissors. It really doesn't matter, just make sure that you stay safe with whatever method you choose to do. After you have your rosemary pulled off from the stem, I'm going to use my big knife to chop it. Just like this. I gather everything in a pile and I'm just gonna start mincing it. So mincing is when you chop really, really, really small. And sometimes what you have to do is you have to make a pile and chop it. So you can see while I'm chopping that I always keep the front of the blade on the cutting board. After I have my rosemary chopped really nice and small, I'm going to transfer that to a bowl. It doesn't really matter how you chose to deal with your rosemary as long as it ends up in a bowl. I'm going to use my knife to just scrape a little bit. Next, we need to zest half a lemon. You may remember how to do this from watching one of our skills videos, but just in case you need a reminder, let's check in with a few more of our FoodPrints friends.
This is how you zest the lemon. So first you rub it and then you give it a tap. So you rub it and then you give it a tap.
Wow, our friends at home did such an amazing and safe job zesting their lemon. And while we were checking in with them, I did the same thing. You'll notice I zested my lemon right into the same bowl as my rosemary mixture. If you separated yours out, that's okay. Just keep in mind that they will get mixed together right now. So I've got my rosemary and my lemon. The next thing I'm going to add is a little bit of salt. Our recipe calls for us to add garlic powder right now, and if you don't have that, like I don't right now, you can just leave it out. I've made this recipe with and without garlic powder, and it's delicious either way, so don't worry. So after you have your seasonings and your lemon and rosemary, you just want to grab a little spoon and mix it up. We'll put all of this on our chickpeas as soon as they come out of the oven. Let's check our timer to see how much time we have left on those chickpeas. They're pretty much almost ready, but we have a few minutes left, so I'm going to take this opportunity to clean off my workspace and get my countertop ready for those hot pans. Whenever we take a hot pan out of the oven, we like to just put something down on the countertop so it protects it from all of that heat. So I'm going to use a kitchen towel, and you can use whatever you have at home. Ooh, now that our timer has gone off, it's time to take our pan out. Remember, grab your grown-up, have them put on an oven mitt, and have them take it out for you. Our sheet pan will be hot, fresh out of the oven, so that's why it's better for a grown-up to do this part for us. This next part will also need the help of an adult. The sheet pan is really hot, so I'm going to use a pot holder to hold the edge while I mix on my rosemary lemon mixture. So I'm going to spoon it all on. And I'm going to keep my spoon and just stir it up. So we want to stir this until everything is nice and fragrant. And fragrant just really means you can smell everything. You know you're done stirring because you smell delicious rosemary and lemony scents. Everything smells delicious. And that's it. Now we have delicious, crunchy, rosemary lemon chickpeas. Thanks so much for joining me. Be sure to check out our other videos. I had a great time with you and I hope you had fun too. See you next time.